So thinking about resiliency today in just the pure physical form with the body, I think of the importance of having balance between, say, the front and back body. So as you lay down and place the block into the sacral triangle, you're now inviting that front body to open in a way that is extremely vulnerable, right? You're not preparing to accomplish anything. No fight, no flight. So as we take some sighing breaths into this shape, let that message of ease and vulnerability and safety kind of circulate through your system, gathering long inhale through the nose. Soft sighing breath. Or maybe occasionally the sigh comes out in a pretty powerful whoosh because there's just so much that hasn't moved in a while. What do you notice about the texture of the front body where you're experiencing stretch? How easy or difficult is it to invite softening? Particularly our hip joints and sacral area hold on both physically, like to keep us together and drive us forward quickly, but also there's a lot in this space energetically that's about feeling safe, relaxing into the moment, trusting that there's plenty of resources, plenty of time, plenty of help, plenty of money. I'm going to invite you to scan your body and just notice if this is still feeling useful, your body's happy to receive this stretch. If not, please come off and just come into your corpse pose or any other shapes that your body asks for as we do a little more tuning in to our slower, deeper, wider yogic breath. Placing our vision inward and upward, third eye point. Placing a light connection of the tip of the tongue at the roof of the mouth, behind the front teeth. Notice and invite a deep spaciousness in the mouth itself, in the jaw, space between the upper and lower molars, maybe a soft smile. I never liked that phrase, fake it till you make it, because it did sound like an awful thing to kind of make yourself be unreal. But we actually know that just adding a soft smile shifts something real in our nervous system and our brain. So it can be a wonderful way to affirm everything's just fine. And in this moment, there's nothing that needs fixing or changing. Can you find the moment of pause that exists between the turns of the breath? So the place that is neither inhale nor exhale. I often think of the breath as similar to a wave on, say, an ocean or a great lake, that there's the wave of the inhale coming up the shoreline, and then a pause before it returns back again and pauses again, and so on. If we're not experiencing that pause, it may be that we are rushing the breath. So if we have been busy, as we were talking about earlier, our breath might have become rushed where there's no pause. Let's refind it together. To intensify that pause, adding a brief breath block. So as you exhale, then hold out for a count. And then inhale and hold in for a count. Notice any activities of the mind and simply return to breath attention. We might do this 100 or 1,000 times in any practice. If you're still on your block or object of support, inviting you to come off, because we're going to be coming into some core activity. Our first is our compression and expansion breathing that I made up a long time ago, in part because I found it's one of the most powerful ways to talk to all the parts of your core strength without needing to tighten neck or shoulders. So on your next exhale, practice firmly drawing the abdomen towards the spine, anchoring the low back into the floor slowly, like you're pushing stale air out of an old air mattress. Emptying, emptying, emptying. Is there more? And when there's not, allowing your whole body to melt and your spinal curve returns. I hope you witness that kind of breath wave moving through you. Sip in a little extra. And again, exhale, compression. When we're in our compression, we should feel the pelvis tilt upward a little bit. And this is a beautiful opportunity to practice staying soft, maybe rolling the neck and head side to side. Again, practicing receiving each inhale with a soft and receptive container. I love using the Ujjayi throat contraction, great sounding breath. During my exhale, it makes me much more aware of the exhale, and particularly those last whispers of breath. Is there more? Is there more? As we continue, I'm going to invite a couple of other movements. So when you inhale, you might sweep arms overhead along the floor, reaching for the wall behind. You could even roll wrists and ankles. And as you initiate exhale compression, bring those arms back into your sides. And if you like, add rock pose or even rock pose with sit-up. Squeezing butt cheeks, thighs, shoulder heads anchoring down the back body. So if there's any area of your core strength that you feel is kind of not there, it doesn't respond, think about taking your hands there. For me, in the early stages of yoga, it was refinding strength in that lower abdominal area between the hip bones. And I really got to kind of up it during this compression work. Again, is there more? Is there more? Nice. I love it when I look out and see everybody doing something a little different and doing it in your own time. Yeah, adding lion stretch. Maybe you want to do that deep opening of the jaw, sticking the tongue out. Another great way to move stagnation. I was talking earlier about the importance of cultivating receptive space in our bodies and our houses and our calendars, right? So right here, you're really clearing out this container that you're in. Let's do about 3 more compression and expansion breaths. You can even scrunch up your face. And when that last one is complete, practice receiving the inhale, just relaxing, noticing how you feel. And then if you would, please join me in abdominal pumping. So still laying on our backs, gathering a long inhale, big Buddha belly, exhaling, empty and hold out. No breath inside, pumping, draw the belly in, like you're saying, see how skinny I am, and then push to the sky, big Buddha. And of course, when you need to breathe, do and let it all go. Sometimes a sighing breath is just perfect there. Let's do another couple of rounds. A lot of our emotional tension lands here in the center, the abdomen, but also just, eating too much. I know summer can be full with a lot of socializing and things, and you can just start feeling again like there's not enough receptive space. And that's complete. I'm going to invite you to bring knees into belly, and we're going to do something I call opening the book, closing the book. It's basically some spinal twisting. We're moving back and forth, and then we'll eventually hold and twist. But for now, you're just going to roll to one side, keeping your hands on your knees. And then as you're ready, take the top knee and let it open and let it pull the rest of the body with until the other knee closes on top on the other side. Opening the book and closing the book. And as you do this, if you can, let your head continue to roll. So you might end up on kind of the forehead or even looking behind you, depending on your flexibility. And whenever you feel complete, just settle on one side using your top hand to anchor the thighs, and then really actively reach out through your back arm and begin to breathe deeply and explore space. That back arm might be sweeping as far down as the hip, as high up as the ear, maybe even circling the body. Another wonderful stretch for these upper bodies can be rotating your hand behind you like you're turning a very large doorknob. And as you do this, you're really working that wonderful kind of shoulder blade, shoulder head connection where so many of us are tight through the trapezius muscles and so on. Find your place of best stretch and take one more really thorough inhale. Is there more? Is there more? And as you're ready, you'll come to your other side. I like to remember that we don't know what's in our body until we begin exploring it in this thoughtful way. So turning your curiosity meter up, your inward gaze. The deep breath is vital. It's often what I say, that it is the change agent. It's what can take the areas of us that are tight and stagnant or just kind of asleep, right? Numbed out, and wake us up. What's this side like? What kind of stretch are you feeling through your hip and side weight body? What are you feeling in the chest, shoulder? And at some point, if you'd like, holding that arm straight behind you, again, kind of rotating the world's largest doorknob one way and the other. And when you feel ready, and never let me rush you, come on back to center. Plant the feet, please, for bridge pose. Work your shoulder heads in underneath you before inhaling, exhaling, raising the hips, and noticing if your body feels ready to play with Yoga Mudra, intertwining the hands behind the back, right? This is an optional add-on. Alternatively, I often really enjoy the arm alignment of just the upper arm anchored, fingers splayed towards the sky. Reaching the chin a little away from the chest will give you more ease in the neck. And then please imagine you've got a block between your thighs. Squeeze that imaginary block and notice the subtlety of how that might change some of the stretching that you're getting in hips and so on. Let's take one more big breath in, raising the ribs up away from the arms. And then slowly, slowly down. Lovely. Knees to belly one more time. All right, we're going to come into our reclined pigeon. If you prefer the more classic pigeon pose, go for it. Otherwise, right ankle onto the left thigh. Hug the right knee as tight to your right chest as you can, and then send it a little towards the center line. Now, some people have a practice where they like grabbing around the left thigh instead. If that works better for you, great. But if you have never tried this version, please do. Sometimes it can just help us get into a little more subtlety of where is that stretch in that right glute piriformis area. Some of us, if we're quite tight, we might be feeling this in hamstring, even our adductors and so on. There's a lot going on here. One more little add-on option, sometimes I'll grab my foot and kind of windshield wiper that shin, if you will, kind of in and out or seesaw it. Just getting slightly different angles, taking some breath into that space, love it up. And let's switch. I encourage you to notice if this side is different. So as you hug the left knee tightly, send a little towards the center line. What's the feedback like? If we have distinctly different tension patterns in one hip glute area than the other, that often will relate to some maybe lower back instability or difference in how tight you are in your neck. We definitely want to give it our loving attention. When this side feels complete and not before, inviting you to plant your feet, but this time take them wide. So right out like at the edges of the mat. Then we'll lay the right knee down towards the center line. If you'd like, reach the right arm up behind towards the wall behind you. Breathing deeply into that shape, and as you're ready, switch. This is another place where any different side to side might really be indicating some challenges in our kind of low spine and pelvic stability. And when you are complete, you could go back and forth a few more times if you're like, oh yeah, that feels really good. We're gonna all meet in butterfly with the feet on the floor, but soles of the feet touching. And initially, just letting those legs settle towards the floor with gravity. What's that feel like today? I'm also gonna work my shoulder heads in underneath, making kind of a shoulder blade sandwich, palms relaxed and open to the sky. And you might opt to just stay here in this kind of relaxed stretch or add the raise of the hips towards the sky. And usually just an inch or two off the floor is plenty. I value this pose for a variety of reasons. This exercise is helping engage and strengthen some areas that tend to be pretty weak or off duty in a lot of us, that kind of low glute, inner thigh, again, adductor stuff. They help us to feel stable and to be able to root. So if you want to up your golf game, definitely do this more regularly. But I think of just daily life and all the ways that we want to feel strong and stable and therefore more resilient, right? More able to handle what comes at us, not get knocked sideways. And we'll hold for another 30 seconds or so. If that's too much in your body, obviously settle on back. I have a lot of people who talk about balance, physical balance being one of their greater challenges in yoga, and that we usually talk about it being our foot, like, oh, my right foot, my left foot. But it's actually some of these muscles higher up, inner thigh, groin, glutes, that allow us to stay rooted in the inner line of the foot. And that's actually more where our balance comes from, as well as making sure that our head and shoulders are not forward of center. All right, just another few seconds here. Breathing, noticing. When you do come down, just notice what's needed. You might want to straighten those legs. Sometimes I like kind of walking my legs against the floor and just creating a little release that way. We're going to return to bridge pose with our foot hover or leg extension. So as you raise your hips, you might place your hands on the hip bones as kind of a measuring tool. And ever so slowly hover one foot at a time off the floor. And if that feels great, you want to move into leg extension, great. But I always start with foot hover because honestly, until we do that, we don't really know, is the stability there for me to be able to keep the hip the same, or is it going to drop on me? And we don't want the body to compensate with other muscles in our back. We want the glute and thigh muscles and all those supportive bits around the sacral triangle to plug in for us. And a slow release in your own time. We're going to come on to hands and knees in table pose. If you want spinal rock, or just gently roll to one side and come up. All right. So just like with the feet, by the way, being able to anchor through the inner foot, with the hands pressing down through the base of the index finger and thumb is a huge part of creating proper engagement and alignment higher up in the shoulder joints. So go ahead and look at your hands. Make sure you see plenty of mat. Stay powerful there. Inhaling, draw the heart forward, cow pose. Is there more? Exhaling, cat pose. Letting your shoulder blades roll down the arms, head hang with gravity. Tuning in, becoming a breath watcher so that as we come into any of our physical shapes, your attention is more on breath than anything else, the ongoing challenge. I'm going to invite us in downward facing dog. And I noticed that for my body, I enjoy a deeper stance between my hands and my feet than usually what I have in table. So I often just send my hands a little forward, curl those toes under, and then send the hips up and back. Knees bent to begin with, maybe forever. So I'm actively sending my belly towards my thighs as my knees bend in. And that's going to give me a moment of freedom to focus on that upper body, rolling the shoulder heads out away from the ear if that feels good. And then as you're ready, drawing your belly into your spine. Remember cat back, how you feel that kind of beautiful support at the front body. Get that in place and then begin pressing one heel at a time towards the floor. Hold one heel, draw a deep breath, hello, stretch. Maybe you're feeling it in the calf, the Achilles tendon, the hamstring, or the whole thing. Other side, hold through that heel, big breath. Marvelous. And releasing to your knees again. We're going to come down to forearms. So I'm taking us into forearm plank. And if you're someone who being on the balls of your feet for any reason doesn't work, for sure you'll want to go to knees. So first stepping back into your forearm plank. If that doesn't work because of feet or anything else, come onto your pelvis and then tuck your tailbone up into your forearm plank so that you're on your knees from the start. Right? These are our options. And this is a chance to balance out the parts of our body that tend to strive. So for me, if I'm in a hurry or I'm trying to get a lot done, I will generally tighten through neck and shoulders. And I'm going to invite you right here during this power pose to get super liquid there. If you can, soft tongue and maybe a soft smile, breathing into it. Let's do one more long inhale. Bring it past the quivering. And release. Turn your head to the side and hit pause. Practice softening completely. Nowhere to go, nothing to accomplish. What are you noticing? All right, we're going to come into jet airplane. So settling onto the forehead, fingertips tenting, shoulder heads anchoring the pelvis. And as you're ready, your version of extension. So the main piece is actually reaching the hands off the floor for the wall behind, getting the shoulder blade sandwich. If it feels good to also extend and raise the head and the shoulders, great. And if some of you love adding the legs, fine. If you're adding legs, notice if it's bothering your back at all and re-anchor them. But also try to have your feet parallel. Sometimes we have a tendency to rotate our heels in and our toes out. And that's a sign that you're actually have some muscle groups overworking and the other one's not participating. So we want our feet to kind of stay neutral if we're in that kind of flight. Good. Yours are neutral. You're good. Yeah, I know. And I like pulsing in and out, giving those muscles a chance to kind of soften and re-engage. You might decide to hold and sweep one arm forward, a nice counter reach, and then the other. And we're going to press back to child's pose. So plant those hands and press the hips back, sending those knees wide. If this doesn't work for your body, you could settle on your belly again, or even move to ragdoll as a lower back stretch. Begin to witness breath rising and settling in this shape. This moment, this body, this breath. And optional little add-on here for a little upper back work. Go ahead and walk those fingertips forward. I'm kind of tenting them, as I call it, where the palm is away from the floor. And with your head resting on the floor, or if you need to on a block, see if you can keep your hips back, but spider walk your hands forward a little bit more. And then draw 3 very deep breaths. If you need to widen the hands out a little bit, feel free. We don't want to feel a lot of tension in the neck. We want to feel kind of good work in the upper back and out along kind of the lat muscle connections. You guys feeling that? Yeah, kind of at the very upper end of the inhale is where we get that stretch. And on an exhale, just melt. Oh, good. If it feels good in your body, take it to one side a few inches, deep breath. Lift and take it to the other side. I'm going to be taking us into forearm plank again. So I'm going to be coming from the forearms like we did the first time. But if that doesn't work for you, come from your belly. Otherwise, right here, coming into table pose. Plant those forearms. Shoulder heads anchor. Nice little bit of cat back before you step back one leg or the other. Imagine a block between your thighs. If your heels are rolling out at all, if your weight moves to your pinky toes, you have lost your core support for this pose. So my hope is you feel strong enough. See if you can even hop. See if you can hop your feet off the floor. If not, by the way, it might be that your hips are swagged. If you're in a swag, it doesn't matter how strong you are, you won't be able to use that stuff. Good. Feel free to add another little challenge. Maybe you're reaching for the wall behind you with one foot and then the other. Again, practicing the liquid neck, tongue. 3 more breaths. Maybe you're doing just a little side to side shimmy, which can give us some nice work right into your obliques. And you just start to feel like, wow, I'm really strong. Hello. As you're ready, release and come right into your jet airplane if you've got it. We're going to pause. We are. Take deep breaths. This is what allows us to get through, right? And not get worn out. Anchoring, engaging. Let's do about 3 to 5 more breaths, your version of however much extending you want to do, whether you're relaxing fully back to the earth on each exhale or just kind of subtly pulsing in and out. And when that's complete, choose your position of pause. Maybe it's on your belly, maybe it's child pose. And notice what is needed. Sighing breath. We were practicing humming a couple of weeks ago because of its ability to help kind of massage the vagus nerve and reestablish ease in our nervous system. So you might even find yourself wanting to just hum to yourself. Beautiful work, folks. Really appreciate you. So fun to see so many people relaxing at once. All right, when you are ready to move one more time, we're going to press it back either to child's pose or downward facing dog. We'll be meeting in downward dog, but you get to decide your journey in your own time, finding downward facing dog. And you might just notice if that way we did it first was useful for you, of keeping the knees bent, thinking about the anchoring of the inner hand, then the establishment of shoulder blades, rotating down the back and out, that core engagement that raises the hips. Yeah. With that in place, my hope is as you now take your right leg flying, you could do this in table instead, by the way, if you're like, this is just too much for me today. But take that right leg flying, reaching for the wall behind you, and hopefully nothing changed. If you sent your body sideways or something dipped, notice as you bring your foot back, you might also be able to witness any of those kind of compensations. Let's try left leg reaching. Breathing, staying stable, and returning. Good. We're going to come on to knees for gate pose. Nice core support. Make sure, please, that you begin with your hands directly below your shoulders. If they're forward at all, it's going to put potential stress on the shoulder. So I'm going to activate my shoulder heads down the back. I'm going to take my left foot, place it 90 degrees, and then I'm going to send my hips towards that open edge of the mat until my thigh bone is straight up and down, left hand to hip, and then pause to notice. Are you pushing into the earth with your back foot? I hope so. Is your head drawing back in alignment with the body versus being forward? Another way is to just send your pelvis towards that open edge. Then you might reach the top arm up or even out beyond the head in a kind of lateral stretch like we do in Warrior Series sometimes. Can give you a marvelous release through here. But some other fun things you can play with is seeing if you can lift your floor knee. Well, I guess you only have one, anyway. Lift your floor knee. If you can do that, you might have fun kind of extending it out in front of you, heel flexed. Always take your neck where it needs to be for ease. And let's come on back. Got it. Always love up wrists also, of course. Yeah, I know. One could do triangle pose instead of this, by the way. We're going to be doing that when we're standing, but it's at least less wrist intensive. So right foot steps back. Send the left glute towards that right edge of the mat. Stack those shoulders. Remember to check, are you pushing into the earth with your back foot? If not, you are missing a whole part of your tripod here. Good, and then play. Can you lift that floor knee, maybe extend the leg? Other things you can play with is just lifting the hand or lifting that back foot. A super fun one, see if you can lift your back foot and your hand. Well, I love, by the way, that the majority of the response was giggling. And I would call that a great sign of resiliency, right? Versus perfectionism, which is, by the way, the opposite of vulnerability, right? That kind of strict, yeah. So well done. I think we did it. Beautiful work, you guys. When you are ready to join me, we're going to come back onto hands and knees. I promise I'm going to give us a little wrist love in a minute. Inhaling cow. Exhaling cat to your downward facing dog. We're coming into dog series. If you know that is too much wrist work for you, feel free to play in just a little cobra pumping or cow cat. Otherwise, as you're ready, inhaling forward to your plank. Squeeze that imaginary block between the thighs and do not lower your hips. Simply bend the elbows. No hip swag. Chaturanga. Maybe you're on knees. Inhaling cobra with the hips on the floor, or you're on your feet with hips extended upward facing dog. Exhaling downward facing dog. Sighing breath. Let that neck go. Walking the hands towards the feet with as much pause between each push, really enjoying the extension through the shoulder joint.
And as you hang in your ragdoll, yes, we're relaxing, hopefully through the spine and the backs of the legs, but I want us to use our compression core, that same muscularity you use to squeeze out stale breath. Let's do a couple rounds here. Inhaling, place hands on shin bones, extend halfway up. Exhaling, belly towards spine initiates your fold. Squeezing empty. Again. Your knees never have to be straight during this. I get a really good ham stretch without it. One more inhale, extension, then exhaling, tuck your tailbone to sit into your chair or bar stool. Again, neck is easy and liberated. Raise the heels for a little balance challenge. Again, balance poses are a great place to notice how reactive or resilient are we. Gonna sing lots of grins. Yes, excellent. Inhaling, root and rise, big glute squeeze. Prayer hands. Soft neck. So inviting you to reverse those prayer hands, but when you do, a lot of people then shrug. So if you're noticing that, bring your hands together further down, shoulder heads anchor, and then just come up as far as you can. We're just looking for a good stretch through these kind of gripper muscles. And then I like to add the stretch to my little grippy hands by bringing the kind of palms apart, but trying to keep my fingers connected until I feel that stretch through the fingers. Yeah, and then releasing. Beautiful. We're going to do standing quad stretch. If you greatly prefer being on your belly for this, go for it. But this is fun because it brings balancing into it. You can also shortcut that part by connecting with a wall or a windowsill, right? When you are ready, we're going to clasp one ankle. If you can't reach the ankle, you can put like a scarf or a strap around it. That sometimes makes all the difference in the world. And then you want to bring your bent knee in towards your standing knee. And I'm going to ask you to notice, I know we're mostly here to get a quad stretch, but like I said, this is balancing. I want you to see what's happening in your standing foot. Do you feel your inner line of your foot peeling away at all? I want you to squeeze this inner thigh, glute, and like kind of power down through the ball of your big toe. See if that makes a difference. As we hold for just another breath or two, see if there's more rotation downward available of that right shoulder or whichever shoulder is holding the foot, actually. Yeah, see if you can rise up through the heart space a little more. Deep breath, and release. And I love shaking it out, yeah. All right, other side. I often think of resiliency with regard to the tissue resiliency. So I, for example, have my left quadricep and thigh area is just more, I call it crispy. Like it feels the stretch in a really different way. I don't know if the fascia on that side is just stickier or what, but even though I have the same range of motion on this side, the stretch feels really different. So just allow your witness to absorb that kind of information. Can you get a good stretch here? Again, if you're needing more intensity, send the bent knee back and in, and think about rising up from the heart, letting the shoulder head rotate down and in. And release. Beautiful. Coming to the front of the mat, ragdoll to start with, just a nice counter stretch to that low back. You might wag the hips a little side to side. We're going to do a little warrior flow and throw some straddle in there, which I think will feel real good. Remember, we want to work with front, back, inner, outer. As you're ready, on the inhale, root and rise. Maybe prayer hands, maybe a little back bend. Exhaling, prayer hands to the heart, and we'll lift our left knee, standing crane. Holding for a couple of breaths and balancing what's happening in the foot, thigh, and glute of the standing leg. How about your tongue, your eyebrows, your breath? One more long inhale. Exhaling, slow journey to your crescent lunge, or if you prefer warrior, 1 foot flat. Either way, hip bones shine forward. Right hip bone back, left hip bone forward.
headlights. What's your version of this pose today? Where do your arms want to be? And it might be movement. Sometimes I'll choose a very soft shape in warrior for the arms. Often we're very active and rigid in our warrior. Sometimes I'll be like, oh man, I just need to melt. Another long inhale. Exhaling, open warrior 2, back foot plants 90. Thighs externally rotate. And this is really key here. And if you're not sure if you're in, go ahead and send your butt out behind you to the right. Notice how your thigh bone angles, and then send it to the left until you see your thigh bone straight, knee aligned. You feel that kind of clicking in. This should make you feel super stable. If I were to come press on your chest, it'd be very hard to get you off of your foundation. Perhaps hands are open, platter hands. Soft, light connection, tip of the tongue, eyebrows relaxed. Breath rising and settling. Long inhale, exalted warrior. We're going to straighten that front leg, but I want to check that it isn't locked. So squeeze your thigh muscles towards your bone, and it should pop the knee out of lock if it was there. Good. And then I'm going to have us, just for safety's sake, bring your right hand to your hip. And then we're going to cock the hips. So I'm sending my left hip back into my hand. And yeah, you've got it. I don't want to rotate at all. I still want my hip bones shining towards the wall to my left. Okay. Then keeping your left hand on your left hip, invitation to take your right hand and just let it begin to slide down the inside of the leg. I am not leaning on the knee. Good. I'm hoping what you're feeling is a deep rooting through your back foot and that you're able to send kind of energetic power forward through the crown. If it feels like you want to deepen over the last couple of breaths, feel free to do that. But at no point do we want our torso to go left and our butt to go out behind us. We are sending butt towards the left edge of the mat, torso drawing back. Maybe you add that top arm. If you've added that top arm, make sure to replace it again, bend that front knee and turn your foot for straddle. You got it. Settle into straddle and begin going side to side. It's a very different way of coming out of triangle than how we've often done it. I like it because it puts, I think, less stress on those side muscles that we were just lengthening and strengthening. Yeah, if you're not feeling a great stretch here, go big, take your feet wider. And then at some point, hold to one side. Maybe you even want to kind of reach away from the feet and get that extra side body stretch. Letting breath pulse. And in your own time, move to the other side. This is also a fun time to look underneath. Be like, oh yeah, totally different world when you look at it from this vantage point. All right, opportunity for dog series. You could also hang out with cow cat, standing hip pump. Otherwise, rotate front of the mat, plant the hands, release that foot into your downward facing dog. Sighing breath. Dog series, inhaling to your plank. Maybe you want to check again that you can hop. And don't change that hip angle as you bend the elbows. Chaturanga. Maybe you can kiss the earth lightly without anything else touching. Cobra, inhaling, nice, warm, open heart. Exhaling, downward facing dog. And how do you want to arrive at the front of the mat? Maybe you're walking hands back to feet. Maybe you're lunging forward. Maybe you want to hop forward. Nice long inhale, root and rise. Exhaling, resolve. Prayer hands, lift that right. So hopefully like me, you've got a little bit of a heart rate going. You need to choose to kind of deepen breath, settle, engage again. All those muscles that are the doer muscles, they're built for it. No neck, shoulders, tongue, eyebrows. Slow journey to crescent lunge. Steer left hip bone back, right hip bone forward. And that back leg can be straight, or if you are more comfortable with it bent, that's just fine too. But if you're on the ball of your foot in crescent lunge, make sure you're really on the ball, that you're not kind of part way in between, because you're going to be very unstable. You might be slicing, you might be in hug emoji. Maybe you're like, oh man, I need another yoga mudra in my life. Breathing into each shape, each moment. And on a long exhale, opening into your warrior two. So we are reminded that the warrior series is the spiritual warrior. And what we mean by that is that we are grounded and centered and integrity in our body and in this moment in a way that allows us to meet what comes with vulnerability, grace, good boundaries, speaking our truth, perhaps protecting others when needed. Breath rising and settling. And a long inhale, exalted warrior. Again, front leg is straight, thigh muscles squeezing towards the thigh bones. You can check your own alignment. If you see that your kneecap is rotated inward, it means you need that external thigh rotation. In this case, your left butt cheek may need to squeeze towards that right edge of the mat. As you're ready to enter and prepare for triangle, hands on hips, do that nice hip cock. And right there, I mean, a lot of us will have some good stretch. You know, before we go any further, this is a great time to check where your head is. It's almost always in front of where it needs to be for most of us. So check the shoulder stack, the head alignment, and then begin to play with sliding down through that left hand. You don't have to go very far to feel a good amount of work up that right side, right? Especially if you're powering down into the floor behind you, which is what you want. You should feel very strong and stable, even though you are counterbalancing a lot of weight, right? Maybe you add that top arm towards the ceiling, maybe a brief reach out in front of you because you love that body, side body stretch. Please just make sure you return that hand to hip before you bend the front knee, rotate so you're preparing for straddle one more time, side to side. And there's some fun add-ons. Sometimes people enjoy dropping the hip kind of towards one heel and extending the other foot towards the sky. I never know what to call this, so hopefully you know what I mean. And I'd like to take us into one more dog series, and we'll actually be then going into bow pose on our belly. Anyone for whom bow pose doesn't work for knees or anything, you could do standing hip pump would be a good alternate, or even laying over the block where we started for that front body stretch. As you're ready, rotate, plant those hands. I'm hoping you're in such core support that when you do that, you can just lightly lift that front foot rather than drag it. Yes. Good. One more chance for dog series if you're doing it. Inhaling to plank. Again, you can always hop, just make sure you're strong and supported. Again, you want your hands right below the shoulder. Exhaling chaturanga. Remember, you can drop to knees and you can just go 1 inch. This does not have to be a big deal, but it's powerful. Inhaling cobra or upward facing dog. If you want to go back to child's pose for a little break first, go for it. Otherwise, I'm going to go right into my bow pose, anchoring pelvis. I'm using my front forearm like so to just make it very easy to reach back for that foot. If we're kind of flailing, often that's where we'll get a hamstring cramp or it's bad on our back. Reaching for the second ankle. And this is where it can be helpful. If you need a strap, I'm happy to help anyone here in the room. But anchoring the pelvis, you inhale, press those ankles back into the hands, exhaling, soften, either a little or all the way, and pumping in and out. If your knees winged out away from each other at all, please try to bring them back and in. Only when you feel complete will you come out, hit pause, find the right shape for these next breaths that hopefully last in eternity. What are you noticing? I often notice that I'm able to relax at a deeper level after a yoga practice, that it has, as designed, worked a lot of stagnation out of my body, my nervous system, and my mind. Please scan your body, asking perhaps, is there anything in particular that your body is wanting? Maybe it's another round of abdominal pumping. Maybe there's a kind of intense balance posture that you want to practice from this space, like crow pose. Yeah, maybe you're wanting the classic pigeon pose. Maybe you're wanting another spinal twist. You really can't have too many. Yep, I see somebody repeating the block under the sacral triangle. Beautiful. And of course, you might decide before you close this physical part of your practice that you want to do a reclined support with the block or just a rolled up blanket under the bra strap. If anyone would like me to bring them something here, let me know. Bolster, great. And if you sense that anything is needed to create that supportive experience, please let me know. I'm happy to help. I think that a big part of resiliency is being in a state of enough listening that when our body sends a message, hey, you know what would create more resiliency, more ease, fluidity, that we're willing to hear it and then to honor it. Sometimes we don't like the answer. Our ego has other plans. I was going to get this, and that done today. Feel free to stay in that supported posture as long as you can receive it with ease, but then do come out, find, again, your corpse pose, shavasana, or whatever other shape you'd like for your resting time, your yogic sleep. You could take legs up a wall or on top of an ottoman. You could be in child's pose or laying on your side, using a bolster with one end of it up on the block to give you greater support through the upper body, open breath space. Invite us in some breath locks, so some final pranayama before moving into a complete relaxed state. As you're ready, just gather a long inhale, curious and kind, and exhale, hold out, external breath lock. And with the breath held out, asking, is there more? Noticing where the sensations, the tensions are. Asking, can I soften around this? When you need to breathe, allowing the inhale to flow in, maybe witnessing its path, and then holding in internal breath lock. Continue for a few rounds, holding out, holding in, practicing softening, allowing. And then when you're ready, if you want to release the breath practice and just settle into your yogic sleep, please do. Is the holding out or the holding in more comfortable, more relaxing? Does one evoke some stress for you? When you do release the pranayama practice, allow your attention to go deep, deep down into your body, the gentle rising and settling of the breath, and the sense that gravity just got stronger, inviting you to settle down and down and down. Please become lightly aware of my voice, asking you to scan your body and being, looking for any wisdom, inspirations about what is needed. Do you need to hit pause more often? Are there some ways that you could do that that are brief but powerful, like taking 3 sighing breaths? How else might you carve out space for this kind of balance and resiliency of not being in doing all the time? Is there something you need to say no to? Can you mark off somewhere in your calendar in the future where you'll take a bigger break? Some of the things that we talked about before starting our practice, receptive space. I respect so much that you took this time to get to your mat today. Grateful you joined me. Thank you for all your magnificent input, focus. And I hope to see you at the mat again soon. And we do have class this Thursday evening. Next week, again, there is no class. So my apologies for that, but I hope you'll take advantage of some of the recorded Zoom classes like today's that will be up on my YouTube station, as well as other regular recorded classes. Thanks, everyone. Blessings. Om Shanti Shanti. Om Peace Peace. Namaste. Hey, thanks so much, you guys, for being here. Have an awesome day.
Absolutely. Hey, are you taping Thursdays?
What's that?
Are you taping Thursdays class?
Yes, I will.
Okay. Is it be different than this class or no? Okay. That would be great because I will do Thursdays next week.
Wonderful. Yay. I look forward to it.
All right.
Blessings.
Thanks for your notes today. Okay. We'll talk to you later. Bye, honey.